Welcome to Pulled Into Letting Go. I'm Mandy Torado. This is my fabulous tropical plant that is spending the winter in my room. I'm introducing it to you because I just think it's so beautiful. Look at these leaves. This video does not do it justice, and these fantastic, fabulous flowers. They are like almost like a blood red with a little bit of pink in them. I don't know the name of the color, but they're beautiful. And all my plants and whatnot back there. And I'll have to post somewhere later, probably on the blog. Out in my pantry, I've got a grow station set up with a grow light, and I've got a bunch of seeds out there starting that I'm going to continue growing indoors. And my red cherry tomatoes have sprouted. My basil has sprouted, and my something or other has sprouted. I originally said oregano on Facebook, but it was something else. Anyway, I'm very excited. All right, now on to the actual topic. First, I'm going to preface this by saying today is Monday, October 24th, when I'm filming this, and it should post Thursday. Where is that? The 27th? Thursday the 27th. Okay. But I'm going to talk about yesterday and Sunday troubles for all families. Okay? So that's kind of the theme of today. So in healing from any sort of trauma, it can be difficult to want to go to church. And when you have PTSD and a larger family, which I'm saying that mine is a larger family because most people consider it large. I don't. I only have 4 kids. I don't think that that's a large family, but whatever. It can be hard to get ready in the mornings for church. And there's a lot of different struggles that families go through to get ready for church. You know, the emotional hype up itself to get out of the house and not isolate, that alone can be difficult, whether you have kids or not. That comes with mental health, that comes with healing, that comes with PTSD and multiple other anxiety issues. It just is. So let's face that. Okay, let's just talk about it for a minute. Why is it important to get out of the house and go to church? Okay, well, Hebrews 10:24 through 25 reminds us, and this is from the English Standard Version of the Bible, and let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. And then 1 John 1:7 reminds us, but if we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus, his son, cleanses us from all sin. And let me be clear about that last verse. I'm not saying that it's sin to have anxiety or to want to isolate. I am saying we have all fallen short and we have all sinned in some way, okay? And I'm not saying your sin causes you to isolate or anything like that. I'm just saying this is another one of the reasons why it's important to go to church, to fellowship, to get out there. There have been Sundays where I want to isolate so badly, but I know that I need to go to church, that I purposely arrive after the songs have begun and I leave after the sermon because I cannot emotionally get through the day of like the small talk and the pleasantries. I just don't have it in me. It wouldn't be safe for me to drive home if I kept trying to push myself too far. There's just days where all you can do is the bare minimum. Just get to church, corporate worship, hear the sermon, come home. I get it. I've been there. It's rare. It's maybe once or twice a year these days, but I get it. It happens. Go anyway and take my tip. go a little bit late when you know they're singing, and leave right after the sermon, or however your service goes. Ours is singing, announcements, sermon, singing, announcements, one more song. So, anyway, and our sermon is quite long. It's like 30 to 40 minutes. So, anyway, but it can be really hard with the family too, because I have 4 kids, and trying to get them all fed, cleaned up from eating. I joke that my 2 little boys are feral because the food just goes everywhere, right? On the floor, on the chairs, on the table, all over their body, all over their pajamas. Somehow it ends up on the dog or one of the cats. I don't know. And on each other, in their hair. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I've sat there. I've tried to watch them. My stomach is not strong enough for that. But we still have to feed them, clean them up, get them dressed, get them going. And that is a challenge, especially when you are just in the thick of your emotions or your trauma or your healing. Do it anyway. Take it a step at a time. Step back and breathe. If you have to, get one of the older kids to help out. I've done that a few times. I said, hey, kid number 2, you are done eating. Go get a washcloth and help your brother wash up. I'm going to go get his clothes because I know that in his bedroom, he's not there. Nobody's there. It's nice and quiet. I can take a moment while I'm getting their clothes, say a prayer, calm down, ground myself, do some breathing, and get back into the thick of it. Sometimes you have to find little breaks like that. That's okay. Maybe your kids aren't old enough to help each other out. Guess what? Do you have technology in your house, or a toy or a book or something that engages them for up to 5 minutes where you can go somewhere, take a deep breath, ground yourself, call out to Jesus for strength? Do not pray for patience. Do not pray for patience. God will give you opportunities to learn patience. He will not just give it to you. Don't pray for it. Pray for strength. Pray for comfort. Pray for peace. Pray for wisdom and discernment, but do not pray for patience. Been there, done that, done it way too many times. Learn the hard way. Don't pray for patience. Oh, yes, the grounding yourself and saying a quick prayer and get your breathing right. Maybe you need to eat something yourself. Maybe you need to take a drink of water. Maybe you need to make a sandwich to eat on the way to church because you don't have time any other way. There's nothing wrong with that. You do need to get to church, though. Colossians 3:16, and I'm going to read a different version. Give me just a moment, please, because I keep reading out of the same one, and I want to expose you to different translations. Let's do this one. Are you going to load? Okay. So this is from the Holman Christian Standard Bible. And again, this is Colossians 3:16. Let the message about the Messiah dwell richly among you, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, and singing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs with gratitude in your hearts to God. I like that. With gratitude in your hearts to God. There is always something to be grateful for. I had this friend when my husband was in the Navy. God bless her. Her name was Kelly. Her husband's name was Patrick. She always used to say, there's always an upside to everything, which was really important to remember in the military because there were a lot of hard times. Just like in life, there's just a lot of hard times in life, but there's always an upside to something. And there's always something to be grateful for. So you make it all the way to church and you find out your kid has a spaghetti noodle in his hair from the night before. Your kid ate. That's something to be grateful for. You had food on the table. Maybe you're grateful for the little giggle it gave you, or that it gave somebody else. That's okay. You're not perfect. Nobody's supposed to be perfect, right? Maybe you're grateful that you had enough gas in your car to get to church today. Or maybe you're grateful that you have someone to talk to at church, or you have somewhere to go because you're lonely and you're stressed out and you don't want to be by yourself anymore. I've been there, done that too. There is always something to be grateful for. And letting the message about God dwell richly among us, there is something so healing about remembering that we are not alone in our journey, and it's not up to us to heal ourselves. There is work that, yes, we need to do in ourselves and outside of ourselves with other people, such as with a counselor, or maybe doctors, nurses, psychiatrists, whatever. There is that work that we need to do, but we're not alone, and it doesn't all depend on us. And church reminds us of that. When we come together as a community, we're all working towards something together, right? Each church has missions that they're working towards, but we're working collectively towards salvation. We're working collectively towards honoring God, towards worshiping Him, towards spreading the gospel. And it doesn't rely on just one of us. Look around you next Sunday when you're at church, or maybe you go to like a Wednesday Bible study or another day of the week. Look around you at that Bible study or that church service and see all the other people there. You are not alone. You're all working towards something together. And it's the same in our healing. We have to have community around us, right? Because we can't do it alone. We're not enough on our own. We were never meant to be doing it on our own. My pastor keeps reminding me, God is a God of relationships. He literally created them from the beginning. Adam and Eve and God, the three chords in the braid. It's all about relationship. And every week when we go to church and we learn about the message about the Messiah, we learn about His relationship with us and how our relationships with others and with Him should go. Teaching and admonishing. Admonishing is an interesting word. I don't want to get this wrong, so I'm going to look at the definition right now to make sure that I'm not jumbling it up. Yes, okay. So it's lovingly reprimanding someone with the truth. So it's not saying, oh man, you are such a screw up. Why didn't you do X, Y, Z? It's, hey, I noticed that you did whatever it was. And I just want to remind you that God has a different way for you. And there's a better way to go about this that doesn't hurt you or anyone else. That's an example of reprimanding or of admonishing. Or, hey, I noticed that, when you get upset, you tend to drink a lot. Have you considered talking to someone about that? I know this is really, it's difficult to do, and I may not be coming up with the right examples at the moment off the top of my head. But the point is that admonishing is not bashing someone over the head. It's lovingly warning them against something and trying to turn them towards what is correct. So, and then I wanted to, oh yes, and singing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. So, funny thing about that is about singing the psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. A lot of the hymns that we have in churches now, Who do you think they're written by? Are they written by perfect people? No. They're written by people who have been broken by the world and built back up by God. They have had amazing experiences of healing and restoration, miracles from God. One of my current favorites nope, I'm not going to be able to pull it up. Anyway, Amazing Grace is one of my all-time favorites. I'll pull that one up. I should have pulled it up sooner, but it just kind of came to me. Do you know who that was written by? Do you know the story of that? It was written by John Newton, a former slave owner. He was not a nice man. He committed many, many sins. And when he was brought to Christ, he was amazed by God's grace and how someone who had done all the terrible things that he had done could still receive salvation from a perfect God. One of my favorite parts is the second part here. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. If you remember my story of coming to Christ, I was in the middle of horrific sin. I was trying to atone for a perceived sin in my life, which wasn't my responsibility at all. And I was recreating through adultery the sexual abuse that I had endured as a child to punish myself for not saving my handicapped sister from her sexual abuse. And I had no fear of God in the middle of that, in the midst of all that sin. It was all about me and what I was going to do for my sister, and it all relied on me. And I didn't think God had any part of my life. He didn't have any space in my life. I went to church, but I was going through the motions. I didn't really care. I just didn't want my kids to go down the path that I was going down, and I didn't think that there was any other way for me. I figured I was way too far gone. Grace taught my heart to fear God, a healthy fear. Like, oh, if I continue down this path, I'm not only going to lead my kids astray from God, I'm going to hell because I haven't accepted God. And then when I finally did, I realized He is a really big God. He is huge. He is so big, I can't even fathom how big He is. And I am so tiny. I cannot even fathom how tiny I am. Yet somehow I am significant to this big God. And grace relieved my fears that I was insignificant, that I was too far gone, that I could not be saved. And that grace is precious. It will always be precious to me. It will always remain at the forefront of my mind that I never have to go down that path again, that I am never alone, that God is always with me. And all of that changed the hour I first believed in Him. I want that for each of you. And I want that for your kids and your husband and all of your family too. And that's why I encourage you that no matter how difficult it is on Sunday, that you do get to church. and that you remember. Sing the Psalms, because they're written by imperfect people too, who went through horrific things in their lives, who went through trauma. And God brought them out on the other side, and they were still able to sing joyfully about it. And some of the Psalms, no, they're not joyful. They're written in the midst of trauma, in the midst of pain, in the midst of sickness and sorrow. But they're still reaching out to God, and they can comfort us in letting us know that we're not alone. Just like I share my story with you here on the vlog and on my blog, to let you know you're not alone. Someone else has been through at least a portion of what you are going through, have been through, or will be going through in your healing journey. The hymns, again, they're written by imperfect people who've been through it, and God is bringing them through or brought them through to the other side. And spiritual songs, same thing. And we have to remember to have gratitude in our hearts, because there is always an upside to everything. It may be hard to find. It really may be hard to find. Right now, I'm going through some really tough stuff in my life. It doesn't have anything to do with my trauma or anything like that. It's unrelated. But the upside is no one in my family is deathly ill. No one in my family has any sort of illness. We're all relatively healthy. We're all able to go to school or work or whatever we need to do. We're able-bodied. That is the upside. And we can get to church. We live in a country where we are able to choose where we worship, how we worship, when we worship. We can have our Bibles with us and pull up the Word of God anytime for comfort. That is a huge upside. If I were to pick little small upsides, I had cinnamon sugar in my pantry today that I could put on my challah bread for my kids for breakfast. I had butter that I was able to spread on it too and make it delicious. I have this beautiful plant here to look at. Sometimes I just stare at my plants for a little bit and just kind of zone out to clear my mind. I have a bed that I can lay on. I have all these plants I'm waiting on to sprout and bloom and grow. I have hope for the future. I have this really cute candle. Ooh, it actually matches my plant. That's cool. Another upside. Sometimes blessings come in really little unexpected ways. Like this morning, I was sitting at the breakfast table after getting home from taking my youngest to preschool, and I started to cry thinking about the overwhelming situation that my family is in that I don't want to talk about on here. And all of a sudden, bing, I get a message on my cell phone, and it's a picture from my son's preschool, and he just has this huge smile on his face. He's so cute. And I just stopped for a moment, and I just looked at it, and I went, God, your timing is impeccable. It's just absolutely impeccable. Perfect. Yesterday, I was driving to get my husband from work, I think it was. Yeah. I was getting on I-5. I was leaving the exit to get onto I-5, and all of a sudden, this red-tailed hawk swooped down in front of me. Had I not been going slow on the on-ramp to I-5, I would have hit this bird. But he was like, I'm not even kidding, like 6 feet away from my bumper. Like, he was super close. Had I been going any faster, I would have hit him. He was the most majestic bird, and he was flying low. I guess he had just gotten a mouse or something from the grass on the side. And I just went, wow, thank you, God, that you trusted me enough to send your creation in front of my vehicle, knowing that I would stop, or not stop, but I would slow down purposely for this bird to let it pass. And thank you that I got the blessing to see it up close. It was amazing, beautiful. I love birds, and so I get super excited when God sends them near me and I get to see them. But I just felt really honored. I don't know if that was God's intent or what, but that was how I took it. I felt really honored that I was trusted to allow this bird to pass without killing it, and that I got to witness it. It was just really cool. It was really cool. I still feel excited thinking about it. So again, there's always an upside, you know. There's little things, little gifts tucked into each day that we can thank God for, that we can build up that gratitude in our hearts with. There is a book, and I really should have had this written out ahead of time. Let's see. I forget the article. Okay. 1,000 Gifts. Who is the author? It's Ann Voskamp. 1,000 Gifts, a dare to live fully right where you are. I'm going to put the link down below in the video so that you guys can look it up. I read this book several years ago, right after it first came out. It was amazing to read her list of 1,000 things that she was grateful for. She set out on this journey to journal them, to write them down. A full 1,000 things that she was grateful for. And I remember at the end of the book, or near the end of the book, she said, one of the things that I wasn't expecting was for my husband to notice. And he said to her something along the lines of, this whole experience changed you. It made you softer, more loving, more attuned to what's going on around you, or something to that effect. And I think there's really something to that. When I take time to list things each day that I'm grateful for, I find myself not listing the big stuff. Like I have a roof over my head. I mean, I do list that, but sometimes it's the smell of the grass or the smell of rain. It's a stranger smiled at me. It's that spaghetti noodles were 50 cents off today, or I mean, there's so many little things in life to be grateful for, to be thankful for. It amazes me. It amazes me how many things we can come up with. It's important to remember, too, that church is not one day a week. Church is all the people, all the community that go to a building to worship God. And we don't have to have one set building to worship God. But having said that, it is still important to fellowship together. That goes back to Hebrews 10:24 through 25, reminding us to not neglect to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encourage one another all the more. So celebrate church every day of the week by building up that gratitude in your heart, but also go on Sunday. And like I said, during those tough moments when you're getting ready for church on Sunday and your kids are fighting or the pets are fighting or you just don't want to go, stop and take a moment and remember, as long as you make it there and you hear the sermon, that's the important part. Try to get there for the songs too. At least get there for the sermon, hear the word, pray with your church, because there is something very, very healing in that, whether you're praying for yourself or praying for someone else or something else. That's important. And look around you at each service, at each Bible study, at each gathering for your church, and be reminded that you are not alone. You are all working towards something. And that's a great visual for your healing as well. You are not alone. It doesn't all depend on you. Yes, it can be overwhelming at times, but you're not alone. I love you, but more importantly, God loves you. I'll see you next Tuesday.